We left Steve Rogers back in episode 3 as having accepted his role of Captain America. He learned that he was betrayed by his government, allied with Nick Fury of S.H.I.E.L.D., found new help in the form of Ricky Barnes and Sam Wilson, and stopped some kind of evil plan by Masterman or the Red Skull. It was kind of hard to tell which. The Skull escaped capture, though. Cap then went on to help found the Avengers, as well as to stop the detonation of Avengers Island's Gamma Core. What can I say? The man likes to keep busy. My name is Ben, and this is Comic Book Breakdown, episode 1.8, Captain America Reborn, Part 2. In issue 6, Cap, his new sidekick Bucky, and a surprising guest star in Cable, of X-Force fame, stop an AIM attack on the S.H.I.E.L.D. helicarrier. AIM, or Advanced Idea Mechanics, is a sometimes terrorist group that believes that information and technology is the way of the future. This particular cluster, as AIM often has more branches than a tree, is headed up by MODOK and World War II villain Baron Zemo? This is one of those moments where having background knowledge of a character is actually less helpful than just being ignorant. There are classically two Zemos. The father, who fought Steve in World War II and was responsible for originally killing Bucky, named Heinrich. The second, Helmut, is best known for being behind the super team called the Thunderbolts. Based on this character's visuals, he's Heinrich, but this story is set in modern times. Did Heinrich also survive since the Second World War? Maybe the writer just moved him forward so he didn't even exist in World War II and is just a modern character now? But then who killed the original Bucky? And actually, now that I say it out loud, I don't even know if Captain America had a Bucky during World War II in the Heroes Reborn universe. In the flashes of Cap we get, I don't think I remember seeing Bucky at all. Oh, okay. So I'm headed down a rabbit hole here. Let's focus on the big picture. What, in God's name, is Cable doing here? Well, funnily enough, not even he knows. As the heroes battle, Cable narrates his situation. He was meditating while searching through the destroyed rubble of his mentor, Blacksmith's base. Smith is another time traveler, and Cable must have bumped one of his devices, setting it off, and thus he was teleported to another reality. Now he gets to fight alongside Captain America. Neat. That is a really flimsy reason for cross-reality travel, but the odds of Blacksmith having that kind of tech are actually pretty high. Don't know who Blacksmith is? Well, Rob Liefeld assumes you're totally familiar with Cable's current situation and that you'll get that reference. So if you were buying this because you just enjoy Captain America, tough luck, pal. As they fight, Cable is pretty happy to be working with at least some version of Captain America again. Cable is a skilled soldier, yes, but even he's impressed by Steve's heart, skill, compassion, and dedication. He casually reads Cap's mind and is floored by what he finds. Cable is in another reality, all right, but this is his Captain America. What tells him this, I don't know, given that Steve not only has years of bullsh memories implanted by the US government, but he also has no idea of his previous existence in the 616 reality. While Cable is reading Cap's mind, Cap takes down Zemo, and then makes some tough guy declarations about Zemo needing to tell the Skull that he's coming for him. How Zemo's going to accomplish that from inside a S.H.I.E.L.D. prison cell, I don't know. Again, it's Liefeld and Loeb on writing here, so don't expect a wholly put-together narrative. Cable tries to talk to Steve about this weird situation as things wind down, but before they're able to, Cable vanishes. Whatever brought him here has worn out or turned itself back on or off or whatever. Cable's returned home to an Earth that is without heroes, but now he knows the truth. The heroes are alive somewhere out there, and Cable will find them. This issue, which is also Liefeld's last, is a celebration of whatever he wanted to do. There are tons of one-paneled pages, and naturally, he managed to strong-arm Cable into this book. Part of me isn't annoyed by this, as the Fantastic Four also had an issue dedicated to tying the Reborn reality back to the 616 reality, but it felt very natural there. Cable is actually a pretty good fit to me to appear in this book, though. He's traveled through time, if not alternate realities before, and he's long considered himself a professional soldier. He has a lot in common with Steve, save for the belief in something greater than himself. But Cable and Cap have very little personal history, and having Cable just stumble over this particular find annoys me. It's clear that Cable is here because Liefeld wanted him to be, and he stars in the issue because of it. This issue doesn't expand on Cap's world, his situation, or his personality. He learns nothing new or grows from his encounter with Cable. Hell, Cable even declares that he is going to find the missing heroes, something that I know doesn't play out in his own book. I'll be interested to see how big a role, if any, Cable plays in the Heroes Return miniseries that actually closes this reality out. We do get confirmation that Ricky has taken up the role of Bucky. She handles herself pretty well against the AIM thugs, despite being trained in ballet and totally unarmed. And that's pretty much the issue. Think this feels light? I'm right there with you. This book is 20 pages of Liefeldian glory, 4 of which are single-panel pages, and 3 of which are 2-page spreads. That's 7 pages, almost half of the book, right there. Why does AIM think that it can take the S.H.I.E.L.D. helicarrier with 2 villains and a handful of dudes in yellow jumpsuits? Why is S.H.I.E.L.D. allowing an untrained civilian like Ricky to live on their mobile air fortress and work with Captain America? I don't know. Those are good questions. Hell, I mean, really, if I wasn't already familiar with things like AIM, MODOK, or Zemo, I would have no idea who those guys are supposed to be other than capital B bad guys. A lot goes unexplained in this book, and I find it pretty unsatisfying. So let's just wrap up Liefeld's run here, and we'll just move on. Issue 7, I love this. Issue 7 opens with President Bill Clinton asking Nick Fury for the real story of Captain America. Between the Red Skull and the AIM attack, he feels like he should finally know the truth. And Nick warns him, the last president to know everything resigned. Those Watergate minutes weren't really about a break-in. So Nick and his associate, a woman named Val LaFontaine, ask the president what he knows about Captain America. He answers that he knows the legends. Cap was a muscular, blonde, handsome man. He was everything good about this country. He heard that his homeland needed him in the Second World War, and he answered the call. Probably came out of an Iowa cornfield. Now, I love the idea of the storytelling setup here. This sets up what the president knows, and by extension, what the populace of the Reborn universe knows, and then allows Nick to reveal to us the grim reality behind it, contrasting the two. But I am a bit grossed out by the idea that a muscular, blonde, handsome man is what represents the good of America. What's good about America is that it's a place that welcomes everyone from all walks of life and gives them an opportunity to work together to build a better world. At least, that's what it means to me. But being muscular, blonde, and handsome? That sounds a lot like the Nazis' version of what's good. And that point has come up before. I've seen Cap fight Nazis who mention his appearance all the time. Hell, the Red Skull did it in the first arc of this book. I think it was only like 2 issues ago. But Steve's looks don't define him. Who he is as a person does, which he always states. That's how it should be for all of us. Take your Aryan dream somewhere else, Mr. President. It is then explained that no, Steve Rogers was a weakling and nobody in the military wanted him. But there was a scientist and they had a formula and it didn't work on anyone. Until Steve Rogers. Captain America was born then and he won the war for the Allies. Then he disappeared. The president offers up a variety of reasons why. Perhaps he'd been wounded and went to die in peace, saving his country from the shock of his death. Or that he was frozen in a block of ice. That one's pretty popular. Wink, wink, geeks. Or that there was a time machine or an energy vortex. Or perhaps the most mundane explanation, that Captain America had a son, and that son had his grandson, and that grandkid is the current Captain America. Fury then reveals that Cap disappeared because the US government made him disappear. He protested the bombing of Japan, believed that doing so would blacken America's honor. The government felt that ending the war sooner would save more American lives and had to be done. The president can see both sides of that argument, but he's still flabbergasted. Shouldn't someone be allowed to disagree with their government? Isn't that kind of the foundation of America? Especially for someone like Captain Freakin' America? And how do you just shut a human being down? Fury dodges the ethical questions by answering the practical one. This is where the Office of Strategic Services, the OSS, started to become the CIA. It's also where a group within that group started to form what would become S.H.I.E.L.D. This particular group, with Fury as their head, had access to technology that the rest of the world thought was impossible. Flying cars, helicarriers, and suspended animation and brainwashing technology. Not that Cap stayed asleep all these years. No, Fury thawed him out when he felt the country needed him. In Korea, he was Captain John Battle. In Vietnam, he was Captain Jack Strike. That was going well until he found a prisoner of war camp where American soldiers had been tortured to death. That tore at him, and Rogers wasn't fit for duty long after. So S.H.I.E.L.D. brought him out in the 90s, set him up with a family, and tried to help him be a person again. Then all that crap with the Red Skull happened, and they needed Captain America again. See issues 1 through 6, or our second episode, for more detailed information. There's not a lot left to this issue, but I just wanted to say that they did it. When I first read that the government had been putting Steve in suspended animation, I'd hoped that there would be times in between where he was brought out. Now, yeah, we get very little information here, basically just a 2-page spread, but I'm glad that someone else seized upon that idea and did something with it. All caught up now, that's when Captain America enters the room. Turns out he's the one who called this meeting. He announces that he's no longer going to be working for S.H.I.E.L.D. They lied to him, manipulated him, and when he calls Fury out on this, Fury won't answer him. Were you just following orders to put me under, Nick? Because I remember Nazis using the same line to justify their actions. Cap then peels off the eagle that's on the forehead of his costume and says that his loyalty is to this country, not to the government or its agencies. The president gives Cap his blessing, happy to do the man a good deed. All in all, new author James Robinson does a great job of recapping what we know and setting Steve on a new path. Given that Fury narrates the whole issue, I do think that his voice is a little off. He's much more level-headed and personable than he was in previous issues, which isn't bad, it's just inconsistent. I like Steve leaving S.H.I.E.L.D., although it feels like this should have happened before the Avengers breakaway at the end of Industrial Revolution. Having the Avengers quit, and then having Steve quit, feels repetitive and sloppy. Why not just have Cap 7 be the Revolution epilogue? Just add Thor and Iron Man to Cap's I quit, oh, and I'm taking the Avengers with me, thanks, and we're done. That'd feel much more appropriate, even if it meant waiting a month to finish Industrial Revolution. This issue also features the new art team, including a cover by Jim Lee. It's nothing special or does have anything to do with the story, it just looks good and screams, "Liefeld is gone, please buy this." The majority of the interiors are handled by Joe Phillips, but the credit is shared with Homage Studios. A quick bit of research online tells me that Homage was an imprint of Wildstorm, which was Jim Lee's company, and as such had access to their artists. Which is good, because at first I thought that Joe Phillips was just really an uneven artist. The book is actually broken up amongst a few artists, with Phillips handling the majority, if not all, of the modern day stuff. During the flashback, I think that Tom Rainey handles the Legend of Steve Rogers portion, while the 2-page spread of World War II black and white camp really reminds me of Lionel Yu's artwork. They aren't credited by name, but I like the other artists being used on the other time periods. It makes the art changes less intrusive and feel more thematic. This was a solid start. I'm pretty pumped to see where the rest of this goes. The next leg of Cap's life begins with him leaving S.H.I.E.L.D. and finding America. Having been in and out of suspended animation, allowed only to fight, Steve isn't sure if the America that he fought for even exists anymore. So, despite Bucky's protest, Steve hops on a motorcycle and goes to find himself. I have a hard time with this. I mean, I like the idea that Steve is finding his motivation. This guy thought of himself as just another dude like a week ago. But now he's the living legend of World War II, he saved America, fought alongside Gons, and done some crazy stuff. I'd need to take 5 weeks paid leave myself. But Cap says that it's to find the spirit of America again, as if this is old Cap fresh from the ice. But he's not. He's Pittsburghian factory worker Steve Rogers, who just happens to be a super soldier. Steve should need to find a clear motivation, but not this lost soul of America. That implies that he knew it before, and that man doesn't exist anymore. He even says that he needs to re-enrich his heart in the splendor of America. And who talks like that? When he says goodbye to Bucky, he even calls her youngster. He feels so old here. And this program identity isn't supposed to be old. Ah! So Steve's journey takes him to Texas, where he runs into a disturbance. Seems that a militia calling itself the Sons of the Serpent have some beef with the government. Someone crossed someone, shots were fired, and now there's a standoff. Before Steve can do anything, the officer that he's speaking to gets an update. Some of the Serpents went into town to get supplies, then they got cut off, and now they have hostages. And apparently the Serpents were stocking up on burgers and malts, cause now we're inside a diner. The Serpents are pretty nervous. They clearly didn't have a plan here and are in over their heads. One of the hostages, an elderly black man, tries to calm one of the Serpents down. This sets the Serpents off. If it weren't for colored folk, the country wouldn't even need the Serpents, clearly missing the subtext of the organization's name. This man, Grover Williams, says that his family has been in the States for over 200 years. They fought in 6 American wars. They've earned their place. The Serpent feels differently and prepares to kill Grover. Grover closes his eyes and we get some amazing narration. He's angry and hurt that this is happening in America, a place that should do better. He fought his way through Europe in '44 with Americans black and white. What for? For it all to end like this? He hopes that his son doesn't learn to hate because of this. He tries to let his anger pass, to die in peace, and Captain America busts through the window. I love this scene. With everything that's been going on in America lately, now in 2018, with blatant racism on the rise and the controversy of Nick Spencer's run on Captain America only 2 years behind us, this is amazingly poignant. And sadly, still too real. I do want to mention that I appreciate the design of the Serpents. They're all regularly dressed people, they just have masks shaped like open-mouthed snakeheads, the inner mouth area being blacked out. Here's a group of proud Americans who are willing to kill those they deem un-American, but they aren't proud enough to show their faces. They are hypocrites, taking out their anger and fear on innocent people, and using the masks to hide their identity shows that they know they're doing wrong. Cap takes them down with ease and a timely cane thwack from Grover. The old man then tells Cap that he served in the war, although he never fought along with Cap. But Cap did save his brother's life in France. And while he did end up dying to cancer after years of a happy life, he would want to thank Captain America. So Grover does so in his place, also thanking him for saving him now. Cap returns the thanks, saluting Grover for his service. The situation settled, Cap asks the police for a lift to the Serpent's compound. And this place is like a Cobra command center. I figured that it'd just be like a bunker or something, but nah, son, this place is huge. And before he's forced to fight them, Cap wants to talk. This can be settled peacefully, if they're willing. The FBI does have radio contact with someone inside, and they pass the mic over to Cap. The Serpent that he's talking to says that the FBI came onto their land and they defended themselves. The FBI shot first. Cap asks if anyone is hurt. The Serpent replies that no, they aren't. Guess you're just better shots than the FBI, huh? Cap is throwing doubt on their story here. If the FBI fired first, they would have been attacking, and would only attack if they could do some damage. But there is no one injured amongst the Serpents, so it's more likely that the Serpents attacked first, as the FBI do have injured. Unless, yeah, the FBI just really screwed up their attack, and the Serpents were better aims. It is possible. Cap then goes on to reason with the Serpent. Let's say you're right, the FBI shot first, you were defending yourself. That puts you legally in the right. The FBI is wrong. Let's talk about this face to face, huh? Isn't that the American way? The Serpent argues that the American way doesn't work anymore. People of color have been bleeding this country dry. If the Serpents could wipe them all out, make this country pure again, that'd fix everything. Cap calmly explains that it took people of all colors to make America. Some were slaves, others were refugees, some were pilgrims. But in the end, they worked together to make America an amazing nation. Anyone who disagrees just does not know the facts. And Cap is more than willing to share those facts, if this guy will open the door and talk to him. Well, a reasonable discussion must have triggered the Serpent because airships burst out of the compound. Like, the whole place goes up in flames as the Cobra Command battleship rises into the air, flanked by Airfang fighter jets and Snake air scooters, and they're firing lasers, and there are explosions, and clouds of smoke, and holy crap, this escalated quickly. Cap saves who he can before downing one of the smaller crafts. Once the assault has passed, Cap talks to the FBI about the situation. Looks like all chapters of the Serpents have gone to ground. Not like that's going to stop Cap. He went on this trip to find the good in America, not its hidden evils. But he'll put this threat to rest anyway. Now, I would argue that Cap did find the good in America when he met Grover. And yeah, there's evil, and yeah, it must be fought. That's true everywhere, though. When I mentioned the subtext of the Serpent's name, I was alluding to the fact that the Serpent is synonymous with Satan. The Serpent that Cap talked to also condemned anyone who didn't believe in Jesus, and I find it highly ironic that someone who worships Jesus would take the Serpent for their namesake. Classically, the Serpent in Sons of Serpent refers to Set, an Atlantean snake god in the Marvel pantheon. I don't know if that'll hold true here, but I'm much more appreciative of the Jesus-Satan connection. I'll give that this issue is pretty heavy-handed, but I would also argue that it works. There is no missing the point here. The art in this issue was handled by Joe Bennett and Al Rio, inks by Sandra Hope and Rio. Al Rio handled at least the early pages. His Steve is very handsome, all high cheekbones and a pensive look. Joe Bennett takes over at the diner scene, I believe, and the two styles mesh pretty well. Bennett's is a bit looser, a bit more animated and lively, so the action scenes are all big panels and lots of speed lines. I like the work he did with Cap's conversation with the Serpent as well. Despite being 18 panels of talking heads, the camera shifts and focuses to keep things interesting. The story elements are a bit stiff and, like I said, heavy-handed, but I like the themes and I'm having a good time. The next leg of Cap's journey takes him to Hollywood. He's been hunting serpents since the attack in Texas, but has found and learned little. He reflects on the changes that Hollywood has been through since 1938. The city has lost its life and is cold, gray, and heartless. I feel like the author, James Robinson, is trying to reflect Cap's mindset here. Steve is having a hard time connecting with his past because it's gone. The Hollywood that he knew is gone. The world has changed, and to him, for the worse, as represented by modern Hollywood and the Serpents. Those serpents are the physical representation of Steve's doubts, and by rooting them out, he'll fix America and find himself. After his latest smackdown, Cap meets Detective O'Brien, who is there to arrest the serpents. O'Brien thanks Cap for the help and talks about how crimes against minorities are on the rise. He mentions that, based on his skin tone, Cap can guess how he feels about that. I think that this is a bit odd, as O'Brien is colored like a Caucasian guy. I could maybe see some kind of Spanish in there, but with a last name like O'Brien, I'd lean that he has some Irish in his background. All of which is based around my own race expectations and stereotypes, so I might have no clue what I'm talking about, but the comment still felt out of place. Cap replies with a speech about racial tolerance with the stars and stripes floating behind him, and it's the kind of "do you get the point" storytelling that makes reading Captain America a bit difficult. Not because the lesson is bad, but because it's such a blunt PSA after-school special knowing is half the battle type of thing. And on a month-to-month basis, maybe that's a bit easier to digest, but I'm reading these issues back-to-back, so it really gets old. And actually, given that we've got an America-based warrior speechifying about moral lessons while fighting snake-themed villains, I think that this is a repurposed G.I. Joe story. Huh. Given the Cobra Command Center last issue, you'd think I would have caught on to that sooner. Maybe I'm dumb. But back on topic. Cap borrows one of the serpents and dips him in the La Brea tar pits to get some info out of him. Why he didn't interrogate the two serpents that he caught last issue, I don't know. So Cap heads down to a serpent supply depot and takes down two snakes arguing about the female leads of Bewitched and I Dream of Jeannie. The serpents are clearly recruiting only the best and brightest here. With them down, Cap pokes through their computer and learns that they're being supplied by the U.S. government. He also learns of their next plan and rushes off to stop it. Cut to the Hollywood sign, where the serpents have kidnapped the industry's top writers, directors, and producers. They're tying them to the sign, which they're also wiring with explosives. Once they're all dead, the city will fall to fear. It'll take months, if not years, for the city to recover from this emotional blow. One of the men argues that this isn't true. They're all replaceable. The city will shrug, slap a new name on the desk, and everything will continue on as normal. The Serpent shrugs this off, replying that he's only doing what his leader, the Serpent King, says. So another then asks why target them specifically. And the Serpent answers that it's because they're Jewish. The Serpent would have also taken any Muslim people in key positions of Hollywood if there had been any. The non-Christian values of Hollywood is the perfect example of how America has decayed over the years. Before the Serpents finish speeching, though, Cap strikes and saves the day. One of the men tears up and explains that Cap saved his mother back in Poland during the war. Grateful, he hugs Cap. Despite his good work, Cap isn't finished. He returns to Detective O'Brien and learns that the Serpents have upped their game. Mosques and synagogues across the country have been bombed, and over 300 people of color had been murdered in hit-and-run strikes. While law enforcement is doing their best, even they are reporting 57 officers dead. Additionally, the masked Serpent King has made a broadcast promoting white purity. The only way to stop all of this is to cut off the snake's head. So Cap is headed to Washington, D.C. Our trip to D.C. in issue 10 takes us first to the Lincoln Memorial. Cap explains to Nick Fury, who joins him, that he's always loved this particular stop. In his opinion, Lincoln is probably the best American president, and he used to visit it regularly when he had a family. Cap asks about them, the life model decoys who were his family. Fury very reluctantly fills Cap in. His wife is seeing a dictator at the moment, and they're about to have a blast, wink wink, while the kids are waiting for a new assignment. I like seeing that Cap's feelings for his family have remained to some degree, even now that he knows that they aren't real. This is kind of the only sign I see of Pittsburgh Steve coming through the mask of Captain America, and I like it. We do have a slight continuity error when Nick says kids, though. We only saw one child during the first 2 issues. The pair then moves on to business. Cap tells Fury that the Serpents are armed by some portion of the government, and Nick admits that he knows. S.H.I.E.L.D. has been investigating them for some time, actually. They know that the Serpents are based in D.C., and they know that their leader, the Serpent King, is in town. Fury already has a team preparing to strike that night, and Cap wants in. So does that mean that he's back with S.H.I.E.L.D.? Cap shakes his head. Not a chance. Fury shrugs and calls out his unit, who materialize as if from nowhere. A small unit of agents in battle suits appear to drop their stealth fields. Cap climbs on top of one, and, as the sun sets, they drop onto their target. The story then frames the attack with 2 flashbacks. Cap met with Bucky and the all-new hero, the Falcon, before meeting with Nick. With Bucky, he was mostly checking in, seeing how she's been handling life on the helicarrier. She tells him that when all the stuff with the Serpents has passed, if he goes on the road again, that she'd like to go as well. She wants to be a useful part of the team, and seeing the country that she's defending might help her understand her role better. Cap is happy to hear it, and Bucky volunteers that she would probably leave if he said no. S.H.I.E.L.D. has been giving her the creeps. There's nothing definitive behind her feelings. The place just feels cold. Cap tells her that while they might be costume heroes, they're basically police. They have instincts too, and when something feels wrong, they should investigate it. This particular version of Bucky ends up surviving whatever it is that ends the Heroes Reborn universe, so I was really looking forward to meeting her character in this read-through. And, as much as I hate to admit it, I liked her better under Liefeld's pen. Ricky was energetic, hopeful, and just the right amount of stubborn. Under Robinson's pen, Ricky is quiet, demure, and deferential. She's like a whole different character now. I dig her wanting to be more of a friend to Cap, and I think that feels pretty natural, but Liefeld's Ricky would have been with Cap the whole time, regardless of how he felt about it. Given the whole investigate S.H.I.E.L.D. plot, I'm hoping that Bucky will play a major role as this series ends. The discussion with the Falcon goes along a similar path. Cap knows that the Serpents are in D.C., and he needs their nest to be kicked. That is the Falcon's job. It doesn't go well, Sam ends up captured by the end of the issue, but he got the ball rolling. Anyway, as Cap and the S.H.I.E.L.D. unit delve deeper into the base, they're finding nothing. It appears pretty much empty. Cap's instincts are screaming that something is wrong. He stops and chats with a pair of the agents. Turns out that one is Jewish American, a fact that, after introducing himself, he says with no invitation whatsoever, "Hey, I'm Miguel Sanchez, Spanish American Catholic." It's weird, man. The second agent is Muslim, but the pair are confused. Does this matter at all? They're Americans and they're willing to die to defend this country. What else matters? Nothing else should, Cap replies. But who assigned you to this particular mission? Before the agents can answer, though, the Serpents strike. They're locked in and surrounded, even taking fire from above. Cap orders some to fire at the Serpents, while the rest blast a hole in the wall. Cap charges right in, fighting the Serpents until the agents get free. Before he can escape, though, one of the Serpents tosses in a grenade, and Cap is killed in the explosion. I mean, it is a dark day in America, my friends. The agents report to Fury and recount the details of the mission. He wants everything reported, and then the men can go back to the helicarrier. Fury is going to need every able-bodied man when they go avenge Captain America. You know, there's a whole team of peeps who could do that, Nick. A whole group of heroes who avenge people. I think they're called the Avengers. That's fine. It's fine. Anyway, Nick heads back home to the Xavier Institute. I don't know. He goes somewhere. It's a fancy mansion. And get this. You guys won't believe this. Captain America crawls out of his trunk. Did you see that coming? Because it was telegraphed a mile away. But how did Cap survive the grenade? How did he escape a burning building that was under government surveillance and the eyes of emergency services without being noticed? How did he pop Nick Fury's trunk, get inside, and hide with no one noticing? Who knows? Man, this is the most Liefeldian plot element that this book has had in issues. It's almost a welcome change of pace. Anyways, Cap spies inside the building and discovers that Nick Fury is the Serpent King, and that the Falcon will be their main trophy as they show America its pure white face. This really threw me for a loop, even if it didn't surprise me. When I bought these issues, I saw Cap fighting Fury on the cover to issue 11, so when the government connection came up, I put two and two together. So while I didn't exactly gasp at this reveal, I am still surprised that they did this. This is one of the joys of an alternate reality. We get to see a character walk a different path, one that they would never be able to go down in regular continuity. While the racist stuff is classically out of character for Fury, this version has shown a willingness to do whatever he needs to in order to accomplish his goals, like brainwashing a national hero. Plus, I like the idea of pitting two soldiers with opposing ideals but one goal, that of saving America, against each other. I'm getting lots of Secret Empire and Hydra Cap vibes here in the best way possible, but this version will be a lot easier to retcon. Issue 11 opens with Captain America recapping the events of the last issue. Nick Fury is the Serpent King, he's planning an all-out assault on America, and Cap has no idea what to do about it. Inspiring, Cap. You are a master tactician. Back on the helicarrier, Bucky ruminates about her friend Becky from high school as she travels through the air ducts on the helicarrier. I'm not sure what the point of bringing up this friend is. Is Robinson trying to juxtapose Bucky's old innocent life against her new life of potentially treasonous vigilantism? Because she has clearance to go anywhere on the carrier, except for this one cell, we're told that. Why can't she go into that room? Will the guards just kill her on sight, or will they just arrest her? Or, if the idea here is that they don't respect her authority, just shoo her away. How does she even know that the guards won't let her inside? How does she know this is the one room she can't get inside? Man, I have no idea. This bit is so vague and short, but regardless of the reasoning why, what it comes down to is her decision. She doesn't have to do this. She could walk away now, leave all of this behind. But what would Cap do? Back at the Serpent's Nest, Fury says that DC gets attacked before the rest of the nation, a precursor of what is to come. He's even had S.H.I.E.L.D. set up cameras throughout the city so that they can watch. But that's when Cap strolls into the room. The pair banter for a few panels, lots of tough guy talk about America, before Cap challenges Fury to a fight. 1-on-1. If Cap wins, Fury calls off the attack. If Fury wins, it isn't actually said what happens then. I guess Cap dies and America falls to racism, and Fury's down with that. We cut back to Bucky, who has had no trouble defeating a pair of highly trained armored guards with just some ballet training and no weapons. She enters the room and finds a shocking surprise that'll be revealed later. Quick, we need to get back to the fight. Fury and Cap are going at it. After Cap asks why, Fury explains that it's because he was going to get pensioned out of the military. He doesn't have any money set aside. He won't be able to live. The rest of the country lives on handouts and food stamps. They are the reason he isn't going to get any money. So he's turned violently, murderously racist. This isn't a supreme jump in logic at all. Cap then argues that, yeah, America helps those who need it, but it's also about giving people a chance. Any person can succeed here with the right idea, hard work, and a will to see it done. If Fury has fallen on hard times, that's his fault for not taking better care of his finances. I mean, he's at the head of the country's premier defense system. How does he not have any money? Fury, refusing to accept responsibility for his own financial ruin, states that it doesn't matter anyway. He already ordered the attack. When Cap heard him, the attack had already begun. Even now, DC burns around them. He orders the Serpents to finish Cap, and he's just taking it all in. Cap thought that this was supposed to be a fair fight. Fury sneers at the question. He looks at this country, and he doesn't see anything fair about it. I like this fight because both sides, to me, have a compelling argument. I do, in general, think that Cap is right. America isn't a place where success is just handed out to you. It's a place that will allow you to find those things, build those things, provided you're willing to work for them. It's not easy, but it's possible. But Fury, at least in this regard, also has a point. Sometimes the system is against you in a way that you can't possibly win, and I've heard stories from Americans on both sides. Not that this excuses his actions. Falling on hard times is not a reason to hurt other people. If Fury has done such a good job as head of S.H.I.E.L.D., can he really not get another job? Like, no other spy organization in the world has an interest in him? And again, as pretty much his own boss, how does he not have any money? Or a retirement plan? Or an investment portfolio? This seemed really dumb to me at first, but then I started thinking about how many homeless veterans there are in the States, and maybe there's something to that. As Cap gets swarmed, the Falcon comes to and shouts at his friend, who he only fought alongside once, so that friendship is tight. Cap hurls his shield into the vice restraining the Falcon and frees him. Then they go to it. The pair fights as if they've fought together for years. In another life, in another world, they might have made a great team. As they battle, Fury takes aim with some kind of high-tech rocket launcher. There's a shot, and Fury, his robot head leaking coolant, falls to the ground. Behind him is the real, the human, the grizzled Nicholas Fury. Bucky joins the fight now, and together the four make short work of the remaining Serpents. It turns out that human Fury had been locked up for weeks, if not months. The one that's been appearing throughout the Reborn universe has been an LMD. The last thing that Fury remembers is signing the order for Steve to be allowed to re-assimilate, and then there's nothing. Out of anyone, he figured that Captain America had earned some peace and quiet. So who did all of this then? Fury doesn't know. They're clearly powerful enough to manipulate S.H.I.E.L.D. and the government and fund the Serpents. Fury theorizes that whoever they are, they were probably trying to start a revolution. With the country torn apart internally, they would have stepped from the shadows as a strong leader and assumed control. For now, at least, Cap has stopped their plan. That's when a communication agent runs up with the news. They need to get to New York now. The final page is a towering Galactus preparing to feed and is an obvious setup for the Heroes Reunited crossover that closes out the Reborn universe. See? What did I tell you? This story wraps up a hell of a lot more easily than HydraCap did. I gotta say, I'm a bit disappointed that Marvel didn't stick with Evil Fury being evil, because I think that he's a perfect dark reflection type of villain for Captain America. I'm also sad that Cap got no closure on his search for America's lost soul. I figured this would end with Steve finding what makes America worth defending was in his heart all along, but we fly right past that. Nope. Serpents are defeated, the story is over, we are done. Having finally finished this out, I have to say I might actually like Liefeld's run better. Oh, that hurt. Hear me out. Yeah, his run is dumb. No, it didn't make a lot of sense. But it sure felt good. I was entertained, I had a good time, and then I thought about it and it was terrible. Reading Robinson's run, though, it's stiff, preachy, and lacking in emotional weight. The only character who I actually enjoyed through this arc was Grover Williams. Steve didn't even find what he was looking for on this trip. I almost feel like Robinson planned this out as a longer arc, but with the cancellation at issue 12, had to wrap it up quick. But if issue 7 is indeed a sign of the heroes returning, then that means that Marvel knew the Reborn books were ending then. So why hire an author to plan a multi-part arc when they could only get one? So I don't think that's what happened. I think that Robinson just really went for it, and bit off more than he could chew. Cap doesn't grow in this journey. Bucky and Falcon are plot devices, although I do like Bucky being instrumental in saving human Nick Fury, and the threat is stopped without any nods to the repercussions of their actions. I mean, the Serpents killed a few hundred people, bombed places, and burned DC, and Fury is just smoking a cigar with Cap before the Galactus reveal. It's so nonchalant. I absolutely prefer Joe Pennett's pencils to Liefeld, but yeah, I kind of like Liefeld's writing over Robinson's, and I am incredibly sorry to say that, Mr. Robinson. I have read a bunch of your more modern work, and it's great. It just doesn't work for me here. Overall, I think that this volume of Cap is a perfect example of how not to write Captain America. Give me Brubaker, give me Remender, give me Mark Waid, any day of the week. Hopefully, we'll get around to at least one of those runs soon, but for now, we're done with Captain America. Instead, we're going to move back to the other solo Reborn book, Iron Man, and see the Armored Avenger tackle several new armored threats, including one from his past. Everyone, there are a million podcasts vying for your time and attention, and I'd like to thank you for listening to mine. If you would like to get in touch with me, to share a concern, request a series, compliment me, berate me, whatever you like, send me an email at cbbreakdown@gmail.com. Otherwise, thanks for listening.